I really like playing with other people's toys because you guys put a lot more money and time and good creatures into your deck, and I really enjoy those.
Right.
And so
it's basically like just stealing people's wallets. Like,
exactly.
But I didn't have to buy it.
Just pickpocketing, and I'm just going to borrow a couple $100 today, and then I'll give it back to you in a couple hours, right?
Exactly. Welcome back to another episode of Salty Takes. I am Jake. This is Kenny.
Was cracking.
We're going to be talking about playing removal and why you should play more or less removal. You know,
It needs to be more.
More or less. You know, this is the show where we talk about our salty takes and your salty takes. So before we get into about removal, we're going to start with one of your salty takes. This salty take is from Alex in 3RV. If the bracket system doesn't pan out, nor does any system put in place, I'm sure collectively the MTG community and customers can stop buying game formats and products until an ideal metric or system is created, but not created out of threats, greed, or gatekeeping. We admire your optimism.
Yeah, let's just stick with that. That's the positive way to say it.
Yeah. So I agree that people should vote with their wallets.
100%.
Just in general.
Yeah.
If things are happening either in the company or the product that you've enjoyed in the past, I think refraining from purchasing said product is a great way to vote. However, it is unlikely, and I also don't think that the health of the Commander format hinges on the success of the bracket system.
No, I mean, the bracket system has been around, and we made a parody of this, so watch that other video.
Yeah, we'll link it above.
How this is the same thing as the power levels that we've had. It's just now we have a more or less viable system and card selection metric way of whatevering.
Nothing yet.
Yeah, nothing yet, but it'll be complete. Trust me. We work for Wizards. And so, no, we don't. But it'd be awesome.
Don't tell them.
It's been 20 years. They ain't figured it out yet. There's no way they're going to figure it out in the next 20 years. I mean, everything, when you deal with something so subjective as salt score, it's never going to make anything correct.
Right. And if you want to know our thoughts about the bracket system, I will also link that above and then down in the description below.
Yep.
But yeah, I love that people vote with their wallets. But even if the bracket system sucks when it comes out, which it probably will,
100%.
I don't think that'll do much as far as the revenue for Commander for Wizards and people's just general enjoyment of it.
Stop buying Commander Precons.
Stop buying Commander Precons.
Let's see how that works.
So, thank you, Alex, so much for your comment. If you want to be featured in our next video, make sure to comment your saltiest takes down in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. We read all of them, and some of them are just freaking hilarious.
Yeah, just keep up the good. You guys are doing great. I love everything you say.
And make sure to like and subscribe. We do these videos every week, so you don't want to miss a salty take. But let's get into our episode.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking about removal. We went over a little bit about this in our last episode this week, but we're specifically talking about really the amount of removal, the type of removal. Should Commander players be playing more or less of it? You know what camp I stand in. Kenny, take it away.
All right, let's go. Everybody should be playing more removal. I am a big fan of board wipes, singular removal. It doesn't really matter. I like being able to take things off the board. I honestly do. And so, especially things that are problematic to me. And I honestly, if you're dependent upon, I guess let me take that back. There's a lot of games that you and I will walk into, and for whatever reason, it feels like you're the one who is having to remove all the threats.
Me?
Yeah, or myself, whatever, right? Depending on the game we're playing. And it just would be, I think the game would go a lot smoother if everybody else would have that back-end desire to put this removal in their deck, knowing that things are going to go. There are other players at the table that are trying to do what their deck does. And for whatever reason, that's all they put into their deck.
Right.
And I would like for you to help me move those things.
Yeah. So I agree. People should be playing more removal. You thought I was going to say less? No. I'll get into that. No. Play more removal. And if it's it's just better. But I understand like the frustrations or maybe why people are not as keen to put removal in it. Like I get there's two reasons why are the big reasons I think why people don't. Number one is it doesn't do what your deck wants to do. If you had a choice between putting in a piece that helps your game plan move forward, or a piece of removal that might remove something that the opponent's doing, most commander players I feel are gonna lean towards the
Definitely
fun
going
part.
for the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's fun. It's more enticing. You get more joy seeing that piece enter the battlefield rather than killing something else.
Mm-hmm.
And my second reason is because it's a social format, because we've come to have a good time. People maybe are a little bit timid about removing other people's fun pieces because of the feel bads that might incur. And I think maybe that's just a culture thing. Maybe in your area it's not as much an issue, but I think people are don't want to piss the other players off, even if it is the correct thing to do in that moment. So
yeah, and at the end of the day, we're all trying to get our 12%, right? That's the supposed win rate I heard a long time ago. And so, like, playing removal is going to be key. And I think time with your deck as well will help you help you better choose which type of removal you need.
right.
Because you'll know exactly where your problem pieces are and things that could potentially get in your way. And so if people start thinking about that, as opposed to how I want my deck to operate, how can I ensure that you guys are not going to interfere with my deck's operation?
Right.
And that has to be a thought that gets put into it. But unfortunately, there's websites out there that don't tell us what these things do, and you really don't know until you have time with your deck, right?
Right. Because when I build my decks, like I'll have all my cards in front of me. I'll get together the cards that are in that color that might be good, or maybe I'll have a website where I can look at cards, like which ones to buy, and I'll just like build it out, and I'll end up with like a deck that's 150 cards.
Yeah, it starts with 150
with no lands, with no lands yet. So I've got to cut like 80 cards from this thing at least. But it's just a lot of the fun cards. It's a lot of the cards that does what the deck wants to do, and usually I'll get it down to a decent amount. Put my my like 20 lands in it. Whatever.
That's all you need. 20.
That's all you need. It's 20. That's terrible advice. Don't do that. But I'll like whittle it down to things that I feel are the best for what the deck wants to do, and then I'll play it. Realize I didn't put any removal into it. And then just get rolled over by something, or other people just don't keep up, and I'll win. But over time, I'll end up taking other pieces out that I feel like aren't performing as well, and then putting in pieces of removal. So it's not really. I should be in the process of just building a deck with removal in it.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel as good.
No, it's you're right. When it comes to removal pieces, it's kind of a waste of a card in the mindset, because it's only has one purpose: to stop something else. It doesn't further unless you can find that magical modal card that does 3 different things and they all happen to be the thing that you want them to do, right? Which is never. So
sometimes
rarely. And so it takes away from the overall deck desirability. I can understand why you just don't do it. For me, I play all the decks that do all the dumb things, and so removal is key in almost everything I do, because stealing stuff and blowing up lands is kind of the way I like to play. So removal is always key in my mind.
Right, and there's definitely some decks that want you to play removal more than others. An obvious one that just comes to the top of my head is, we've talked about Turgid.
Yep.
Turgid works really well with having your opponents discard cards, sacrifice the creatures, because you get the benefit from doing that.
That's correct.
I think that's another reason why people don't love Turgid as much, is because it's incentivizing you to do that. It's incentivizing you to.
It incentivizes you to play for everybody to be punished for the way I like to play the game, right?
Right.
I want you to have as many little resources as possible, and I really like playing with other people's toys because you guys put a lot more money and time and good creatures into your deck, and I really enjoy those.
Right.
And so
It's basically like just stealing people's wallets. Like,
exactly.
But I didn't have to buy it.
Just pickpocketing, and I'm just going to borrow a couple $100 today, and then I'll give it back to you in a couple hours, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's and then Turk is not the only one.
Nope.
There's lots of other commanders, just cards in general that
Mm-hmm.
will give you extra benefits for removing things, either resources or creatures or cards in their hand, whatever it is. Some of them will lean more that way, and others just won't. And then also some archetypes will build in removal pieces or things in that archetype that also count as removal.
Yep.
Like a big one that I know of, like dragons. There are lots of dragons that act as...
There are lots of dragons.
Yes, there are lots that act as removal pieces. Whether they... what's that red dragon? That when it deals damage to you, it deals that much damage to all your creatures? I'll put it up. I don't remember the name of it.
It's such a good dragon, apparently.
It's a great card. But like it fits in the dragon archetype and also acts as basically a one-sided board wipe if you can do it right.
Balefire dragon?
I think it's Belfire Dragon. But that is something that fits in the archetype you're playing.
Yep.
Doesn't take up a slot. Like you don't have to take out a dragon to put in a board wipe. You can play a dragon as a board wipe.
As a board wipe, correct.
And so there's so many different cool and creative ways that you can add removal to your deck, and sometimes you just need to put the boring stuff in. You know, sometimes you need an assassin's trophy. Like for white, you're already going to be running Swords to Plowshares. Like that's not even a question.
Exactly.
You're already going to be running it. But it just always, and some people don't have this problem as many as others, me included. I have this problem where I don't want to take out my cool cards to put in removal.
Yeah.
But I know I need to.
And you're in the same boat with a lot of people, right? And so it's always, I mean, obviously you want to play into your play style, however you play it. If and there's no right or wrong. I mean, this guy doesn't know anything about removal. I play way too much removal, and so it's just kind of.
How dare you?
And
I play so much removal.
We don't want to take away from your game. So obviously you'll play your game if you're happy with the way your deck is performing, and you don't need a board wipe. That's fine. And there's many types of board wipes. Like he mentioned, the dragons. There's like 3 or 4 of them that are built-in board wipes. When they do either attack, they enter, whatever. Even Terror of the Peaks, just as other dragons enter, he's pinging people and destroying. I mean, you can take the table out at that point. And so there's a lot of different ways you can do it to build it. And so removal is not necessarily it doesn't have to always be a bad choice. There's a lot of cards to pull from, and just finding out what your game plan is going to be and how you want it to work. You can have a lot of good time without playing an excessive amount of removal.
Yeah, and like you're saying, removal comes in lots of different forms. It can be fun to play it.
Yep.
And for those of you who maybe don't want to play removal because of the feel bads at the table, I get that. I understand. Casual format, very very social. I get it. I understand. But if you're coming into a game of Commander and you're expecting to not get your commander removed or just to have your board state be left alone, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it now. You should come and expect to have people bring interaction. So do not feel bad if people are removing stuff, especially if it's really good pieces.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing worse than playing your commander. Like Miram. You play Miram. You get mad that Miram's removed? No, don't be mad.
Yeah, expect
dumb.
it. Expect it.
Anticipate it. Maybe run heroic intervention or like some lightning just any cheap protection. Because expect that removal. Like we would just want to avoid feel bads at all, so that people don't feel bad about playing removal, and people don't feel bad when they're getting the removal played on them. It may just be like a culture change. I think most people that I've played with understand when the stuff gets removed.
Yeah.
And so it's never really that big of a problem. But maybe if you play with people who are not as emotionally emotionally intelligent, it can be hard.
EQ, right? The emotional quotient. Yeah, I mean, and it's not just necessarily removal, right? It's not the beauty of our game is instant speed. Right? There's a lot of TCGs out there that you play on your turn, you pass it, they play on your turn, so on and so forth. Instant speed interaction is phenomenal. Abilities are great. And so, I mean, there's more than...
And they're always printing more and better removal all the time.
Exactly. And they're printing them on creatures and doing all this crazy cool stuff. Like, so it's not hard for you to find something that's going to be tailored to your idea of how your deck's going to be, or how you want it to function. And so it should be just put more... Not just be interacted with, but be able to interact with other people. That's it's a great feeling when you can do that, because then you're not on your back foot anymore. You're actually standing firm, or you're pressing forward, and that's a good feeling to know that you're in that position. Especially if you're after you just stifled that individual stuff, and now here you are. It's your turn. Let's go.
Yes,
foot on the gas pedal. Do something stupid.
Right, and again, you be very creative with your removal. Just if you have a game plan to deal with other people's stuff, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And as well, the other part of this is we're sitting here telling players to play removal. This is part of the deck building process. When you go in, expect removal, play removal. In the game store, if someone is complaining about something, now is not the time to just be like, well, you should play more removal. That's not helpful. That's not very helpful at all.
It's fun to say.
Yeah.
It's not helpful.
It's one of those where you may be correct. Absolutely. I hope, yes, usually that is always the answer. But in the moment, at the game store, you play a game, and then maybe they just had a bad time, or they felt like there was something else dominating the table. Saying play more removal in that moment, not very tactful. Your bedside manners need a little work. But I get the urge. I get it, but maybe refrain once or twice.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that one. I tell everybody the same thing.
Yeah, you hurt my feelings, Kenny.
Yeah, I should play more removal then.
No.
we wouldn't have this conversation if you did so.
Hey, I have a blasphemous act in there. We're fine.
Yeah,
good.
You're
That's
right.
My one board wipe.
So good.
So good. Dude, 1 mana? It's crazy. People are like, oh, I have to pay 3 mana for a board wipe? That's ridiculous, man.
I pay 6. I like my farewells.
I think we covered what we wanted to about removal. We did make a episode about threat assessment, which goes into heavily about playing removal and what to remove and how to remove it. So if you want to check that out, we'll go ahead and link it down in the description below. But in the meantime, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then if you do want to be featured in next week's video, leave a comment down below. Give us your saltiest takes. If you disagree with me, with Kenny, whatever. Just
nobody disagrees with me, dude.
Nobody does. I do all the time, Kenny. What are you talking about? And then make sure when you do subscribe, we are doing our first gameplay video next week. Amazing, Halloween themed. What are you going? Sexy cat? Is that the plan?
That was the plan originally, but those outfits are sold out and not in my size anyway. So
I'm sure we can make it work. Right. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, until next time. Don't be salty.